So what is going on, guys? It's Triple G here, back with another Diablo 4 video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about this poison rogue build, which is kind of going under the radar at the moment. I've had a bunch of people come over to my stream and ask me, Trip, how the hell are you putting so many poison traps down? And how the hell are you doing so much damage when you're so many levels below what you're actually fighting right now? So guys, if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join me over on Twitch. I stream 6 times a week, and otherwise, let's get straight into this video. So as you can see from the footage here, I am level 66, fighting level 75 plus enemies in these nightmare dungeons. I'm on world tier 4, and I actually beat the capstone dungeon for world tier 4 at level 61. Now this build focuses on crowd control and using the rogue's traps mechanics to do a ton of damage to both enemies in the crowd control areas, and you're still able to do a ton of damage to bosses as well. So it's worth noting that you'll see a ton of YouTube videos that will talk about having perfect rolled gear, and you will see insane clips. Now the great thing about this build is you don't need perfectly rolled gear, and I actually still have some sacred gears even though I'm in world tier 4 because I'm waiting for a decent replacement. So all the footage you see here is using this exact build. This exact dungeon that you're seeing right now was used with the exact gear that you're about to go through. So first of all, let's talk about the overall gist of why we're going with what gear we are. So the damage rotation is really simple. We're going to pop our concealment, we're going to go in, we're going to drop our 4 traps down, and then we are going to just back off a little bit and fire our rapid hit through. Now, a lot of people have been coming up to my stream and saying, well, why are you able to use 4 traps? Now, you can use 4 traps because of this aspect here. Now, this aspect does not come from a dungeon. It comes from a random drop in the world. So you do have to be lucky, but I have found quite a few of these. So, Poison Trap no longer breaks stealth and triggers no cooldown or arm time when you are in stealth. All poison traps activate when you exit stealth, and poison traps cooldown will be 6.5 seconds per trap place. Now what this means is when we are not in concealment, I can only actually press 1 trap at a time, and no matter how many times I press that button, I cannot use any more traps. Now this is an issue when you want to do large areas of poison damage. Now what this means is when you pop your concealment, you will go invisible, and you can now place up to 4 traps down on the ground, and they will only go off once your concealment ends or when you choose to fire your weapon. Now what this also means is if you do accidentally get hit by AoE, you will come out of concealment and pop those traps early. Also, if you actually put 5 traps down, or as many as you can in those seconds, only the first one, the first trap, will give you that bonus vulnerability for 6 seconds as specified in the skill tree. The next critical aspect that we're going to talk about is the rapid fire has a 75% chance to ricochet to another target. Now this 75% can vary up and down, so you want to be looking for ideally over 75%, but the very first time you get this aspect, just throw it on for now. You want to be putting this on a crossbow. Now that's really important because you get the bonus vulnerable underneath in the damage card at the top, and then you can get vulnerable roll again. Now I don't actually have a very good crossbow at this point in time. You're looking for things like vulnerable damage. You can get bonus trap damage and poisonous damage. Crowd control is really good. Damage over time is really good. All those kind of things that will enable us to do more damage while our traps are on the ground. Some of the other aspects we're going to talk about here, we have bonus armor whenever we deal damage. We have a barrier here which comes in really handy when we are actually fighting elites and bosses. We have basic skill attack speed here, which is really nice. This unique is something that is really nice as well. Now what this means is that the death trap will keep going until you have actually killed an enemy. If you have a single elite in front of you, you can pop this and the enemy will continue to take damage over and over and over again until it's dead, whilst that is also enabling you to keep it pinned into a position because it doesn't allow that enemy to get out unless it teleports. So this is not essential by any stretch if you don't have this unique, but it does do a dramatic impact into your build. On the boots, this is a new aspect that I think people are sleeping on. When there are at least 5 close enemies, stun them for 2 seconds. This can occur once every 20 seconds. Now, on previous builds that I've seen, a lot of people use the dash aspect where you will dash in and daze people, but you don't need to do this on dash with this aspect. And as you'll see later on in the build, what we're doing is we're trying to layer on as many different crowd control mechanics as we can at the same time. And that is really, really important for additional damage. Another unique here that works really well is Condemnation. Now, Condemnation will allow you to get 32% increased damage when spending 3 combo points. So the mechanic for actually doing damage is really simple. We're going to be firing our basic attack 3 times to get our combo points up, and then we're going to be using our rapid hit. Now, as you can see on the card here, it already comes with core skill damage as well as the core skill damage increased by having the 3 combos. So you're gaining around about 50% increased damage by just using this at its maximum potential. And it also has the ability that any basic attack can actually do a 3-point combo point anyway. So at hit 1 and 2, you could get up to 3 and then have your bonus 50% damage. Really, really good, unique. Again, not critical, but when you are trying to push those dungeons and you are under level, this can be the difference between success and failure. On my other dagger here, we have a standard aspect that you can get out of dungeons. Attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill. On my jewelry, we have the basic skills grant 20% damage reduction for 4.5 seconds. This is where we're going to talk about the hearts. Now, in World Tier 4, you will get the most powerful hearts in the game. Now, just something as a side note here, if you didn't know already, these hearts will actually give you bonus armor as well. So even if you don't have the right one, if you are struggling, put hearts in. You can always replace them and they will give you a bonus armor stat, increasing your survivability. Now, the really critical one that we're looking for in this build is the Wrathful Heart. Your damage over time effects are increased by 40.5% for each different crowd control effect on the target. Unstoppable monsters and staggered bosses instead take 129% increased damage from your damage over time effects. Now, this is really, really critical. So you remember we talked about with our stun mechanic over here, and we're obviously doing crowd control from our poison. So as many different crowd controls as we can get, slow, the stun and the poison together will give us additional damage using this heart. Really, really critical thing here when you are pushing those nightmare dungeons. In terms of rolls here, we're definitely looking for trap damage. This one here, I don't actually have a very good roll, but it is ancestral and it's something that I'm looking to replace in the future. On my ring here, I have skills deal up to 90% increased damage based on your available primary resource. This is something that drops very common in the world. You can pull it off and put it on, and it also comes from a dungeon that you can unlock by doing the aspect dungeon in the relevant area. Rolls here, again, poison damage, crowd control, injured. I'll probably roll off that cold damage or look for a replacement. Then we're using Vicious Heart here. You have a 20% chance to launch 5 stun grenades that deal 32 physical damage and stun enemies for nearly a second. Now, this is important again because the more times we stun people, the more damage we're going to do while they're crowd controlled. The final ring here obviously has the aspect that we talked about, which is that poison trap, allowing us to do 4 traps instead of the 1. We have poison damage, crowd control damage, crit strike chance, and damage to close enemies here, so which is really, really nice. And then the actual heart that we are using is the Devious Heart here, and we're going to deal 3,600 fire damage to surrounding enemies whenever we crowd control effect is removed from you. This is not perfect. I would look to replace this down the line. I haven't quite decided on which Devious Heart I would like to use in the future. Now, when it comes to the Paragon board, we are going to be using 2 different glyphs at the same time here. The first one we're going to be using is Chip. So hopefully you get this nice and early when you get into your Nightmare Dungeons and start leveling this up. This will give us bonus physical damage, and physical damage increases damage an enemy takes from you by 1% up to 10% for 15 seconds. So when we're hitting them with rapid hit, we're actually buffing the amount of poison damage they're taking while they're stood here. So we're going to be pathing up. We're going to be taking Prime here. We're going to be taking both Lawless and Skillful, but obviously you have this on your screen to pause the video whenever you want. The next board attachment we're going to be taking is No Witnesses. Now, we're actually not taking No Witnesses right now. We are going to probably revisit this a little bit later on. Now, the key thing here is we're going to be going to take Color here, which will give us a 20% chance to execute non-injured elites, and it also gives us that bonus attack speed. We're going to be taking all the magical nodes around these as well. We're taking Fleeting here, which will control impaired duration reduction and damage over time reduction here as well. Again, all the magical nodes. We're taking Training here, which will increase our maximum life and give us a dexterity. But also, there is a lot of maximum life nodes around here as well. Then we're going to take Knowledge, which is a straight damage buff. And as you can see here, we're working on our intelligence to get another 10% damage. And as at the moment, as I'm level 66, we're working our way over to Ruin. So this is a build in progress. There will be another build when we get to level 100, but it's really critical here that you guys understand where the build is going, and we just basically are nudging those numbers up every time. As for the damage rotation, it's really simple. We're going to pop our concealment, go in, put all our traps on the ground, and then we are going to just do damage. Now, the way that the skill tree works is that the skills work in tandem with each other and will reduce the cooldown down. And you will see at some points where our cooldown actually just jumps down by 10-15 seconds a time on our supers, and sometimes it can actually just reset itself on a go as well. So it's really, really nice here. So we go in, we do our damage on the ground, and then we just mop up the enemies. Be careful with the ranged enemies. They can cause you some issues, so try and target those first. And then in terms of bosses, it's just walk up to the boss, get your traps on the ground, and just fire away. 3 primaries, then bang onto the core skill, and you should make that enemy completely disappear. Guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, or join me over on Twitch. I stream 6 times a week, and otherwise I'll catch you on the flip.